Okay. Well, appreciate everybody joining us. Again, my name's Craig Klein, and I'm joined by Kendra, who most of you know, who manages our support team. And I wanted to start us off with a few just sort of best practices related to email marketing. We find that a lot of customers have questions about sort of what's appropriate and what works in email marketing. And I wanted to just touch on a few of those topics. We don't have a lot of time to get into the details of that, and then turn it over to Kendra, and she'll get into more of the how to do it all in SalesNexus. If anybody has any questions about anything that they'd like to discuss in more detail, feel free to reach out to me. I'd be happy to get on the phone with you and brainstorm a little bit about your campaign specifically. Okay, so one of the things that I always like to emphasize to customers is that whether you know it or not, you're already doing email marketing. You're sending emails to your customers all day, every day, right? So don't let the term email marketing slow you down or make it seem more intimidating or complex than it should be. In a lot of ways, you can take what you already have, emails that you're already sending to customers on a individual basis, and you'll be able to use that as pieces in your email marketing campaigns. So, that's a great place to start. It's obviously an easy place to start.
Basically just adding stuff here. That's really not.
That's all?
What she's talking about, putting the other mantle.
Craig, can you mute us all?
Yeah.
I'm hearing a lot of other chat.
Okay. So I muted everybody because there's a lot of background noise. We'll probably try to turn that back off when Kendra gets started, because we definitely want this to be a two-way conversation and want you to have opportunities to ask questions. Okay. So the other thing is, you want to make your email marketing pieces sort of altruistic is a good way to say it. What does not work very well, although it's very tempting, is to pitch your product and service. Think about the emails you get all day, every day. When you get an email that says, hey, sign up for our super duper discount, what do? You hit delete, right? Because you get too many of those every day. If you offer your customer something that they will value in and of itself, and it doesn't cost them anything, then you're going to get a much higher response rate. And that's what you want. What you want to do is build their trust. You want them to look forward to your emails in the future. So try to make it, something. Sign up for a webinar is one thing you could do, or here's an interesting blog post that we just put out, contrasting ourselves with other solutions in the marketplace. That's better than just a pure offer. Basically, you don't want to be a pitch man. That's not what works in emails. You want to create content that your customers love. Again, it really doesn't have to be that hard. It just can feel a little counterintuitive sometimes. You're in business because you're good at something. You know your business. You know your customers. You know your product. You know your service. You could sit down and write the 5 things that you must know before you buy this thing today. You're that good, right? You know your product and service and your market that well. That's what your customers want to hear from you in your emails. So it's either simple emails that link them to resources on your site, or sometimes the emails themselves can convey a lot of this information. Another way to get the process started that can work for a lot of people, if you spend a lot of time on the phone with customers today, just record some of those conversations and then go back, after a week or two and listen through them, and you're going to hear yourself talking about the same things over and over again. That's the stuff that you need in your emails. That's the stuff that you need to get in front of your prospects and customers. Obviously, just like anything else, you need to schedule time and focus on it. It can be an easy thing to procrastinate on because we've all got more sort of here and now things to work on. And tell stories. If you've got customers that you can talk about, success stories, case studies, that kind of stuff, that's great. Horror stories, don't let this happen to you. That's always something great that's going to get people's attention. And 5 ways to reduce the costs of hiring new employees or health insurance or whatever it is. And then make it fun, be yourself and, share fun stories and have a sense of humor. Again, imagine or think about how you look at your inbox every day and what gets your attention. That's what you want to give your customers. Keep it simple. Again, you can make a list of the emails that you're sending to customers today. Use those to create templates. You can just create a simple email. When you get a new lead, a lot of times the hardest thing for a salesperson to do is get them on the phone, right? Call them twice a day for a week or something, and you never get them. You get their voicemail over and over again. These days, a lot of people would prefer to respond to an email, and so rather than a voicemail. So if you just make part of your process that on the second day or whatever, you're going to send them an email saying, hey, thanks for contacting us. I'd like to get on the phone with you. Please email me a good time to call. You'll get a response to that pretty frequently. People will tell you, hey, I'm on vacation this week or I'm traveling this week. Call me next Tuesday at 10 a.m. Perfect. That is email marketing, believe it or not. And then, helpful tips, obviously. 3 easy ways to store household chemicals safely or whatever it is that your product does. Give them some tips on how to use it. So the other thing to focus on is things that stall in your sales process. Typically in any business, customers go along nicely through the process and have a tendency to get stuck at a certain place. So let's focus our email content on that roadblock and helping educate customers so they get over that concern or they get informed enough to feel safe moving forward. Or they know enough about your business to feel like you're the right partner. You've got to do your own analysis to identify what that is. But that's definitely where an email marketing campaign can help. And then, you really got to think about the calls to action. Ultimately, you've got a trade-off to make. The call to action can get you a lot of responses if it's very broad, right? So to learn more, click here. Well, a lot of people might want to learn more for various reasons, but it may not have anything to do with buying anything, right? So if you want more highly qualified responses, then you create a more specific call to action. Click here to read 4 ways to reduce transportation costs. What that's going to do is that's going to be a great way for people to get more information, but it's not necessarily going to be great super duper sales leads, right? Or download our report, most common shipping and receiving injuries and accidents. If you sell insurance to businesses that do a lot of shipping and receiving, that could be a great free resource to offer. But again, it's not going to get you a lot of great leads necessarily, right? You might want to include in those same emails another call to action that's click here to set an appointment with one of our agents. So now they have a choice and they can tell you who they are and what they're interested in. So most will click for the free download, and a few will say, I want to set an appointment, and of course those are the ones you really want to talk to. And then don't forget about the subject line. Frankly, the subject line is really more important than what's in the email itself. If you think about how you read email, what you do, what most people do, and there's been studies done on this and so on, what most people do is they look at that inbox and they scan through it and they look at the from field. And if they recognize the name, it's a customer, it's a coworker, it's a family member, it's a friend, they're going to read those emails first. Then, for everyone else, the ones that they don't recognize, which in this case, when we're doing email marketing, that's probably where you're going to fit in their world, they will look at the subject line. And if they don't know who you are and the subject line doesn't get their attention, they won't even look at the email. They will hit delete, it's gone, it's over, right? So that subject line better get their attention. There's also a lot of things you don't want to use in the subject line because it'll set off the spam filters and you'll go right into the junk folder. In fact, there's a blog post on our site called Spam Words, and it's a list of words that you should avoid using in your subject lines and in your emails. And of course, with the subject line, it's real easy to test that. Especially with SalesNexus, you can track the opens. You know, how I send it to 1,000 people and 200 people opened it, but then I changed the subject line and 300 people opened it. Well, that tells me which is the better subject line, right? So use that capability. And then finally, we released an ebook here a couple of months ago called Grow Sales with Emails, 7 Easy Ways Sales Teams Win with Email Marketing, that really digs in a lot more detail to a lot of these concepts. So if you'd like to get a copy of that, just go to the homepage, salesnexus.com, and you'll see a banner there where you can download a free copy. That's available to you, and as I said before, I'd be happy to speak with you as well if you have any other questions or would like to brainstorm on any of this. So now I'm going to turn it over to Kendra, so bear with me just one second. And Kendra, you are on.
I am unmuted. That is so dangerous. Okay, can everybody see my screen now? You should be able to see the graph that comes up.
Yeah, I can see it.
Okay. This is when Craig was talking about the marketing report or the tracking of your emails, and this is what your report looks like in the SalesNexus. This happens to be when we set out the customer survey a while back. It shows how many people we sent it to, and then it'll show you the unique number of openings. Well, we sent it to 2,779 people. We had a 19% opening rate on it. We only had a 3% click rate, which means we didn't have as many people clicking that survey open as we would have liked. So the next time we send this out, we're going to look at our subject line, just like Craig was saying. How do we get more people to look at it? How do we make sure more people take the survey to tell us how we're doing? So we'll use our own best practices on this and improve this email for going out the next time. Now, I'm sure most of you have attended my classes at one time or another, but we've got some new resources I want to make available to you. We have a new PDF on how to create email templates that will walk you through the steps. That is available on our website, but I'm going to send it out after this class today to each of you so that you've got step-by-step how to create your email templates, make it a little easier. I also want to show you kind of how to go ahead and make those changes. And Craig, could you do me a favor and put everybody on unmute?
Sure.
So we can get some feedback?
Okay.
All right. Everybody should be able to hear me. What we're going to do is I'm going to show you some of the new features that we've discovered in our email templates, creating the email templates with more of a crisp look to it. And I want you to be able to ask me questions as we're going along. So I've asked Craig to take the mute off. We're going to pop into the training database. And we've all received those newsletters where they're in boxes and you've got the banners across the top, the information running down the side. And it's really a nice, crisp look. And all you really want to do is put your logo in it and get your data in there where you want it to be. Well, there's a way for you to create that in SalesNexus. One of the things that's going to be happening is we're going to create for you some sample email templates that we're going to then upload to everybody's database. And I've got a couple of them in my sample database here. So if I go into Sample Newsletter 2, I'm going to right-click on it and go to Edit. What we've done is I've put a table in here, just some basic information. But if I put my cursor in this first part up here, I can come in and insert my logo. So if I come into SalesNexus letterhead,
Tell them if it happens again, let us know.
well, we're going to have somebody who's got some background talking.
Yeah, we can do it from there.
We're going to click on the SalesNexus letterhead, and I'm going to insert this. You can see it, put it over here to the left. I want to move it to the right so I can slide it over. Now I can start entering. Sure.
Right there. This is Mike Ferrugia
Yes.
from Parson Environmental. You've actually helped me out a million times under support. Listen, what is the difference of doing what you just did with importing that image that way, and then rather than me just going online, going to my website, view as image, select all, copy, and then pasting it in there? Is there a difference?
There is a difference, and the difference is this is putting it up on our server. So our server software, when it's sending out your template, is pulling it from the right spot.
Okay.
Where you're putting it in, you're depending on that connection between the template and your server.
Right. Okay. Yeah, right. Okay. So, but is my space then, you know, is everybody's space unlimited for pictures in there then?
Well, it's not unlimited, but I don't think we've had very many people go over.
Okay, good. Okay, thank you.
And you know, you know me, I'll personally tell you if you go over.
I hear you. Thank you.
Okay.
Kendra, I have a question.
Sure.
We tried to create a template just to see how this works with our logo, and our logo took up the whole entire message. What size would you recommend?
Well, you have a couple of choices. You can make it smaller by dragging the corner. You also have the choice of when you insert the image, is you can pick it here and go to Appearance, and it's going to tell you what it's set for. Now, that's kind of giving you the ratio, and what you can do is you can downsize it by, say, doing 160, and then making this, say, 60. And then when I insert it, it's going to make it a little smaller because of that size. My personal preference is to drag it to get it to where I want it to be.
All right, thank you.
Even though it's huge, you can resize it. Now, you notice I put this table in here. Well, I want to show you all how to put a table in. So what we're going to do is I'm going to close this for right now, and I've got in here a Word document. And basically, you can see I've got a Word document in front of me. I started out with tables that had columns in them. I then merged fields. Like I could come here, right-click, and I can say merge the cells. So I can make this table any way I want it to be. Now, when I put it in SalesNexus, I don't want to really see the lines. I want it to look like I did it graphically. So I'm going to highlight it like this. I'm going to come up to my table tools, and I'm going to tell it no borders. Okay? So now, if I come off of it, it looks a little funny. It's gone. But if I right-click and copy, then when I go into SalesNexus, and I come in here and I add a template, I now can click on the W here, paste from Word, do a Control-V, and hit Insert. And I now have put that table in my SalesNexus database. When this goes to the client as an email template, it will have no lines around it. It will have a sharp, crisp, you can align each cell right or left depending on what you want to do. So you have options with this that you wouldn't have normally with just trying to type an email. Because if you've ever tried to type an email, on any line, you can either justify left, justify right, or center. Those are your choices. With this, you can pull it in any way you need to. Now, I do want to mention that for those of you who are just starting on doing your email templates, I've noticed in a lot of our clients' databases, we're starting to get some strange naming for letters. They're calling them letter 1, letter 2, and letter 3. That's fine if you only have 3 letters, but 6 months from now, will you remember what letter 1 means? So you want to give it something that's a little more constructive for finding it later. And by that, I mean putting in then picking your mailing list. And a lot of people are missing this little box here. This is what makes it an email. That makes it the to, the from, and the subject line when I save it. So another thing I want to point out is, you remember how I've had some customers ask me recently about adding some color to their template. I want to come in here and I want to add some color. If I highlight these boxes and I come up here, I can tell it to make those boxes orange. Now let's say that's not my company orange. I can come up here and I can go to more colors, and I have the ability to go to a named color, meaning I know the name of the color, or I know the number of the color, or I can pick it off of a palette. This is even more interesting. I can pick it off of the picker. And by the picker, I can come closer to matching the color that I want it to be based on my company colors. Now, if you have company colors, your printer is going to know those numbers. So you can brand your email so it always goes out with your picture colors on it. Another item that I've recently learned is, let's say I'm putting in text, and you know, if you put it in as with the name, you can come in here and you can pick the field. And let's say I've got a typo in there. And if you're like me, I'm not the world's greatest typer in making sure I spell it right. But if you come in here, you can right-click. You can tell it to check your spelling. And then it will come in and you can pick the correct word. So you do have spell check in your template editor. So that will allow you to create your emails, make sure their text is correct, and then you can save it, and you always know that you're spell checking it, you're making sure your information is correct, and that you can get your color coding the way you want it. Now, one of the items I want to remind you of is, I want to make sure that you keep in mind that it's a good idea when you hit the save button, it has to refresh itself after the save. Until it finishes that, if you do anything else, you can lose the work you've done in it. So you want to take your hands off and let the system save. We had one poor customer that worked for 20 minutes to get this beautiful email done. She hit save and she closed it too quickly and it saved blank. So you really want to let the system do its job and save the document properly. So, any questions so far? Now, I know some of you guys on this call. It's unusual to not have questions.
I have a question, Kendra. This is Louise.
Yes, ma'am.
When you
Yes,
said
ma'am.
you can pick the color, do you have PMS color numbers in there?
If you watch this, it comes in here, and I'm not sure these are PMS. I think these are the web colors. But you've got a color code down here that starts with a pound.
Okay, all right.
So if you can get your color, these are HTML color codes. If you can find your color code, you can enter it in, and it'll automatically pick it for you.
Okay.
The other thing you can do,
my class.
The other thing you can do is you can change your fonts. So keep in mind that you've got the same ability to pick your color fonts. You're going to have the same choices for wheels. So you can come in and you can tell it the color you want it to pick. So even though you have text that, you can now make it a little more dynamic. As you're filling this in with these forms, you're going to be able to left justify and right justify. Now, one of the things we're going to be doing is adding templates like this to a folder and then pushing that folder out to everybody that has kind of the basic table shapes in it. What I would like to ask you all to do is, as you've got something or you see something you think might be good for us to have in everybody's database, is email it to me. And let me see about stripping it down and making it for a shell so that everybody would be able to have the same format. So feel free to shoot me your ideas, because I'm going to be training some staff on how to create these email templates, and you'll make it easier for me if I've got some examples other than my own.
Kendra, we've got a question. We know how to change the tables when you're in Word. When you get in here, if we realize, oh, I didn't have that quite set up right, I need to merge a couple of cells, can we merge it once it's in here, or do we have to do that before we import it?
You need to do that before you import it, or you have to do that in the HTML code.
Okay.
And I don't know about you, but I'm a little uncomfortable doing it in the HTML code yet.
Yeah. Okay.
Hey, Kendra, it's Mike Ferrucci again.
Yes, sir.
I got a question. I use the emails all the time, and I think SalesNexus is the best thing since sliced bread. But why are you making cells? I don't get it.
Well, a lot of times when you do a newsletter or you're doing something like that, you want a column of pictures.
Okay.
And then I want my text, and maybe I want a different set of pictures on the other side. By putting them in cells, you can separate them out.
Okay.
Because I can come here and let's say I've got, I'm going to use the logo, because Craig's on the call and I'm not sure I want him to see my puppy pictures up there. But let's say I have like a series of pictures that I need to get on the system. So I would have a series of pictures here, and I could have the text here, and by having them in cells, I can put them one on top of the other easier. I can line my text up here, and then I can come here and line my text up here. So it allows me to be more creative in the cells than it's going to allow me to be in a paragraph format. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes a lot of sense. I mean, I don't know if you've seen some of my emails, but I've always just fought it and made it falling good, and when I couldn't get it to go in, I play a little bit in the HTML. I've kind of become good at just looking at it and figuring out what I need to tweak in it, and it works sometimes with positioning. But yeah, this is actually pretty cool. The only thing I don't know is I've never used Word to build these squares.
Well, watch this. This is how easy it is to build a table in Word. I'm in Word. I hit Insert. I hit Table. I'm going to make this 3 cells across and that many cells down. Well, I want my header all the way across, so I highlight it, I right-click, and I merge those cells. Now I have one header all the way across.
It's a lot like setting up I use Excel extensively. It's a lot like setting up an Excel table now.
Well, and you can copy Excel in. How about that?
Okay, yeah, there you go.
So the same thing in Excel is I can take this and highlight it and hit copy. And what I'm going to do is come to the bottom of here. And so now I have a cell in here. With Excel, you don't get the lines quite the same. But I can bring it in. Oh, that's what I did wrong. If you have to paste it into the Word, and you can see now you're going to get the fields are going to come in. And again, you're not going to see it when you print it or when you email it. Those lines don't show in the final product. So you can bring your Excel documents in as well.
Yeah, that's good. That's all good. Now, another thing, too, I wanted to touch base with is earlier in the meeting, Craig was talking about hooks, or, call to action. I call them hooks. And I use them extensively in my emails. And what I'll do is I'll put an email in there. One of the best emails I ever made was, and I wish I knew that picture thing. I probably would have done better with it. Was what I did is I imported a picture of 17 of my best-selling products in the email, and I made each of them a link to my website, and I just put it through to the people, and the header said, which one are you interested in? And then I went the next day to the select, and I get a whole report through that report you give me, and it tells me which page they clicked to. And I called that person the next day, and I said, hey, are you interested in this? I couldn't believe what I sold that day. I was 8 o'clock at night. I was still making phone calls.
Right. Now, by the same token, you can highlight this picture and you can make it a link.
Right. But now when I send the email to a person under the first thing you were talking about, the campaign with the little graph there, you can actually, or if you tracked it, you can tell with the last link they clicked on. And then if it was, I sell cement products. If it was Quick Plug, I call them and say, hey, you got an interest in Quick Plug? And they're almost like, gee, how'd you know that? And I'm like laughing.
That's right.
Yeah, right there. That's the report.
Yeah,
that's one I use.
And that's where the reporting mechanism comes in handy, is because it does give you that kind of instant feedback on what they looked at.
Right.
We
I have a very
clients who,
client base. In other words, there's the same 30 people across the country buy from me. So the way I use my emails is when I see them hit on a product, I call them. You know what I mean? So I like my hooks exactly opposite the way Craig said, although, the other way works too. So both, my reason for bringing it up is both methods work. Especially in the more specialized your product is. Mine's very specialized. So if someone clicks on a calcium aluminate concrete, I really know I got them because there's only 4 people in the world that make it.
See? So in that fashion, you can use that report. By the same token, you can use that report if you have an email that is a dud. You're not going to get anybody opening it. Then you're going to do as Craig mentioned and look at your subject line and see if you can improve it. So this is basically, you can bring in additional tools into your templates. We're going to give you guys, as quickly as we can, we're going to design some templates like this where all you have to do is come insert your pictures and insert your text. You've got the ability to highlight them and put a background color on them. You're going to have the ability to highlight them and change the text to another color. So you can make it however you need to make it. You can make that text a link. So you can make it, so you make that your hot button or your hook to grab them back. But we're very committed to making sure that you all can make the best of your email marketing. And so we want to be here to help you with that.
So
is there anything?
If I send an email to a group, I take an email and I create a group. Is that automatically considered email marketing? I mean, if I send any email using, or do I have to be doing this through campaigns or?
When you're sending to a group, you're sending a email template to a group of people, so everybody is getting the same template. It's customized for them depending on what fields from your database you're pulling in. So it is either going to be an informational email, meaning you're letting everybody in this group know the same piece of information, or it's going to be a data gathering email. You're wanting them to give you back information.
Well, my real question is, and let me use an example because I'm not articulating it well. Last night I sent a group email reminding a group of about 40 people of a meeting that's happening this Saturday. So the email went out to the group. I don't recall that I clicked on a particular button that says to enable tracking when I created the email, but I created the email for one of the members of the group. In other words, I created a lookup, I went to the top member of the group, and then I just inserted the body of the email in as a contact doc because we were creating a specific document for those people. And then when I launch the email, if I want to make sure I'm tracking who has opened it, do I have to is there a checkbox that I have to use, or is it automatic?
If you have email tracking, when you go to send this and you're changing this from current contact to current lookup, you turn your tracking on down here at the bottom.
Okay, let me go back.
Hey,
So you have.
I can answer that question directly. What's your name? This is Mike Ferrugia, because I
It's
do that all
Bob.
the time. You can't track that because you said the magic word email attachment, and I know for a fact in conversations with Kendra and her whole crew, they're working on that. When you have an email attachment, you can't track it.
Well,
So put an email so in your original document, you said you had contact document, you attached it, and then you send it to the whole group. That's not going to be able to track.
okay, wait a minute. That's not exactly going to be correct, Mike. If you set it up as a one-step campaign.
Yes, he said he didn't do it that way, though. You're
No,
right.
I didn't do
That's
it that
the
way.
way to track it.
Right.
And that's the way I do it now, Kendra. You're right. Kendra's right. Listen
Yes.
to what she's going to teach you now.
Okay.
You know how to do it.
There
You
you
can tell I have fans in the audience.
go.
Okay, if I'm scheduling a campaign, and I'm going to go in and I'm just going to create a real quick one-step campaign. I'm going to create a new campaign, base it on the start date because I want it to go the day I tell it to, and I'm going to add an email. Pick my email template that I'm sending out. I'm going to pick my attachment from my library. They have to be stored in the library.
Not in the contact docs.
Not in the contact doc. Contact doc is strictly for that contact. It is not for everybody in your database. It did not go out to God and country. It went to one person.
Even though it said to the current lookup?
Right. Contact docs go to one person only. The person that
Right,
owns
let me repeat that question. When I created the dialog box, it said, do I want to send it to that contact or to the entire lookup, and I clicked the entire lookup. It then asked me, do I want to send 34 copies? I said yes, and it said
Okay,
successfully sent.
Then it should have been you were in the library and not the contact docs. And we'll show you that in just a second.
Okay.
All right, so I've got my campaign, one email. I'm going to tell it to auto send. I've got my email template picked, my attachments picked. I'm going to keep it for current user. I'm turning on my tracking, and I'm saying OK. I'm going to go to next, and I'm going to give it a name. I'm going to hit finish. Now I'm going to do a lookup in the database. And I'm going to go into the very first one. And I'm going to click on Schedule a Campaign. Here I'm going to pick that Schedule the Campaign for Hearts. I'm going to make a current lookup. I can leave it over that user, and now if I hit Schedule Campaign, that attachment will go out to everybody in my lookup. Because I'm sending
Plus
it
you can
as
track
a
it now, too. Plus you'll be able to track who opened it, who didn't open it, who was a hard bounce, everything.
Yes, so you will get the tracking if you use a one-step campaign. You can send an attachment to a lookup, and you can track it. But it has to be as a campaign because the campaign is pulling the pieces together.
Did I see that you can schedule the time that it goes out or the date by doing that? Is that
You
what
can
you're-
schedule, yes, you can schedule the date. I can tell this to not go out till Friday.
Can you schedule the time too, or just the date?
Just the date.
Ooh, that'd be a nice little improvement to add to put the time in there.
You know what else
It's
you
on
can
the
do
list.
with that feature there, and I use this 100 times, is I'll get engineers call me, and engineers, sorry if there's any online, like to read one thing and then go on to the next thing and read another thing. So what I'll do is I'll set up a campaign where I'll send an email out to them, and then 4 days later another email, 4 days later another email, 4 days later another email, and then on the 16th or 20th day, I set up a task for myself to call the guy and say, hey, what'd you think of those emails?
Yeah, cool.
Did you hear that?
Yep.
You could set up a campaign and do 4 emails, 8 emails, whatever in a row, and then track him which ones he opens. Now, obviously, if he doesn't open the second one, you cancel the campaign and call him and say, hey, why didn't you open my email?
You're vicious.
Kendra, would you show me?
Good thing I don't sell Salesforce. You'd be out of business.
Kendra, can you show me? This is Bob Pervin again. How you access the tracking again?
Sure. On any of the email templates, when you double-click on the email template, it's going to be across the bottom here. When you've turned it on and you're in the reports, so if you go up to reports, and then you click on the campaign tab, and it's going to list them here, whether it's an email blast or it's a campaign. And it's going to list by the subject line, and then it gives you the date and the time it went out.
And you can use that for single emails. Like, I got people that I know are avoiding me. So what I'll do is I'll send them an email that says, hey, what's going on? And I'll look and I'll say, oh, they opened it at 9 o'clock and they don't call me back. So at 9:30, I'll call them back and say, hey, I already saw you open my email. Call me back. And it's amazing. 35% of those people call me back.
It's also, you can use that if you're sending out invoices, put the tracking on when you send a customer the invoice through SalesNexus, because that allows you to know they got the invoice and they opened it.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Sure.
This is LJ and Megan here. We're both from Alaska Crossings. I'm wondering what the difference between a campaign and an email blast is.
Oh, thank you for asking. That's one of my favorite explanations to give. An email blast is going to go out right when you do it, and it's going to go out over your name. There is no scheduling involved. A campaign is going to be a series of items that happen when you tell it to happen, because they can be emails or they can be to-dos or phone calls. It's going to go out over a period of time or the day you tell it in the future to happen, and it doesn't have to go out over your name. You can change it to another user.
Okay, cool.
So a campaign is, if I want to give Craig all the work, I schedule it as a campaign and I make him get all the to-dos.
Nice.
Yeah, my favorite thing. I don't get to do that often, though. The other thing I want to mention for anybody who hasn't attended one of these classes is the big, one of the things that, for those of you who know, I was a customer before I began working for SalesNexus. And let's say you're sending to a lookup of 2,000 people. Do not CC or blind CC yourself or your boss if you're sending it to 2,000 people, because SalesNexus is a program that sends out a separate email for everybody in the lookup, not a blind CC to everybody. So if I copied Craig on here, if I blind CC'd Craig and I'm sending this to 2,000 people, Craig's going to get 2,000 emails in his inbox. That's a way to make an unhappy boss.
On a related subject, this is Bob Pervin again. It's been recommended to us by one of our tech support people that we should create a unique email address for our from field, even though we're not going to do a CC, because we've experienced firsthand the warning that you gave us, unfortunately too late. But is that something you recommend? And if so,
you're going to find that if you're changing the from line here, if this is not coming from you, but it's, say, coming from info@salesnexus.com, fewer people will open it. Where we're talking about the CC or the blind CC.
No, I understood that, and as I said,
okay,
we've gotten the 4,000 copies already.
Okay.
So I've learned that one firsthand. But,
yeah.
So you would not recommend? You're saying that if it's coming directly from me,
it should come from you.
It would have a more effective open rate.
Yes. If people know who you are, then it should come from you. Now, if I wanted to change this, and I needed to change it for, say, just today, if I come in here to my record and I change my email address to, say, info@salesnexus.com, and I save that, when I double-click on this, my email address from line is going to be the new email address.
So you wouldn't change it there. You would actually go in and change your own, or
Yeah.
create a second email address. We have a field for a second email address I could use.
It's only going to pull the first one, dear. You
Okay.
want to make sure it's pulling from email address in our system. That is the one that's used for blast. So you want to change it on your My Record. If you seriously want to change it on your My Record, send out those emails, and then don't do anything else till you know they've gone out. Then change it back to your email address, because your email capture will be off while you've done that.
All right. So, but if you change the from line in the dialog box to send, what does that work or not work?
No,
or
it does not work. If that is not a user's address in your database, it's not going to work.
Okay.
Unless it's a user's address. If you're not on My Record, if you're on the lookup, mine is not. You know, we goofed it up, and I don't have I'm in our database, but I'm not on My Record. So this morning we sent out 500 some emails, and we typed in my return address, my email address. Are you saying that didn't go out that way, or?
No, you're a user, dear.
I know, but I don't have a My Record.
Yeah, you do.
Well, we didn't have it pulled up.
You don't have to have it pulled up. I'm just in the My Record on mine. You don't have to have it pulled up, but your email address should be in your My Record.
Just because she's a user.
Just because she's a user. If you have a login into SalesNexus, you have a My Record page.
And I don't know if Craig's still on the line, but I want to challenge our question, not challenge, but something you said a minute ago about if it comes from me, it's more likely to open. Is there a danger that I marginalize my my credibility if I'm frequently sending out what might be considered as spam?
Well, I mean, sure, that's a risk, but that's where the art is, right? If you're sending out stuff that people want to read, the people that you're sending to are going to recognize as valuable to them, then I don't think it's a real big issue. I mean, just from our experience, we've been doing this for years now, and I've never noticed that effect for myself. Virtually all of the marketing stuff that goes out from our database goes out as from me.
That's from you.
And I've never really experienced that effect.
But okay, yeah, but I don't think you abuse my inbox either. But and you're right. When I see something that's coming from you, and I recognize it exactly what it is, but it's a keeper for me because I'm interested in what you're getting. An interesting side note that goes again to the things that you said, Craig, is as you were going through your part of the presentation, I was reminded that there is a fellow, I can't remember his name right now, who has Joke of the Week is his thing. And because I'm into Jokes of the Week, I always read his emails. I've yet to ever call him, or I have no idea what he sells, but because it's Joke of the Week, I'm not sure he accomplished his purpose, but I don't discard his emails.
Yeah, I mean I don't want to get too far off the beaten path here and take up too much time from the really hands-on stuff that Kendra wants to cover, but there's getting engaged, which means you now know who I am and you know who SalesNexus is, for instance, right? And so now you're willing to read the next email that I might send you. That's getting engaged. Then there's connecting, which is, okay, I want to talk to you because I have a need that I think you can help me with, right? And that's more the sales process, and that's what my remarks are mostly about, those two levels of sort of connecting with the customer. So I think your Joke of the Week guy would argue that he's engaged with you pretty solidly, right? But maybe his failure is he hasn't figured out a way to sell you something, right? He hasn't sent you a link saying, hey, we just took all the Jokes of the Weeks from the last 3 years and put them into a book. Go here on Amazon to buy it for, right now.
Thank you. And then Kendra, back over to something that you said before, and I'm as you know from our prior conversations, I'm still confused between the library and the individual things. But what I'm sensing from both you and Mr. Ferrugia's comments is that you use the library not as a place that people would go check out stuff, but you use it for really individual contacts.
No, contact docs is I use this under contact docs. This is for this contact only. If I go to any other data, any other record in my database, these items will not be under their contact docs. If I want something I want to send out to anybody, it goes in library.
All right, so I just, again, after you said that before, I went back and looked at my records, and all 34 of the people, or the 10 that I checked, all got the document. So I sent it from contact docs, but I sent it to the current lookup, and it went to everybody. But the document is not in the library, nor until we had this call, I wouldn't have expected it to be, because it was a unique document. Don't forget, we're meeting with you next Saturday. Not something that I would want to have be in my library of stuff.
Well, let's test that theory, because it's not supposed to work, Brad, but you got me concerned now. So hold on a second. So I've come to a different contact, and I'm uploading the document. Right. Now, I've come here from a lookup, so I'm going to go back to my lookup. I'm going to go into this person, and if I'm in contact docs, and I want to email this as an attachment, you're right. It does say current lookup. Craig, I did not know that. Did you?
It's a new feature.
It is.
We're okay with it.
Hot off the press, right?
God, what a save. Thank you, sir. That's why he's the boss.
I'm sure it was designed that way.
Well, what it seems to be doing is it says send marketing library, so it's pulling the library page.
Well, except for I didn't have this document in the library, so
I don't have it in the library either. So
okay.
I'm going to have to research that, Brad.
All right, this is Bob. You got out of that dialog box, and I was hoping you were going to scroll down to the bottom to find out if that allows you to enable tracking from there, but it obviously does not.
It does not. From library, you cannot do tracking. You can only do the tracking on an attachment item as a campaign.
Okay, so I need to go back and unfortunately, as good as you are as a teacher, I forget it within 5 minutes if I don't do it 5 times. So I'm going to have to be practicing up on this. I get off the phone with you and I say, gee, I get that, and then the next day what did she say? So
I understand. That's why you keep coming back.
That's like a bad song, right?
All right, we're going to get now. I want to make sure I follow up with everybody. Is there anything else that you have questions on that you need me to show you again or cover something else?
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
We designed an email, and really we're doing a campaign, but we didn't know enough. We don't have our database good enough yet that we can really do it that way. So we're going to send 5 emails that are very, very similar to a target group. So each time I want to go into the email and change it slightly, but just slightly. I'm changing the verbiage, but I'm leaving the graphics there. And the only way I know to do it is to go into the old email, open it, and save, make the changes and then click save, which means I lost the previous template.
Right. Let me show you how to do that in an easier way. And what you're going to do is you're going to open your old email in edit mode.
Okay.
So it's going to bring up your email, and it doesn't matter what's on the email. I'm going to click on this HTML right here, edit HTML source. Left click on it, and I'm going to copy, Control C. Then I'm going to close this, and I'm going to just come here and I'm going to add a new template. And I'm going to go back to that HTML and do a Control V or paste, and I'm going to update.
Oh, yeah.
Now I have an exact copy of, yeah, we did. I have an exact copy of my email. So now I can make changes, and I have my email 1, my email 2, and my email 3. And I can keep building This is especially important as you brand your emails so that you consistently brand in the same way.
And then where do you put the name of it? Where do you save it as for the name?
Letter description.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Yeah, you did show me that before.
That's why you come back for more.
There you go.
Any other questions?
Yes, Kendra.
Yes, sir.
This is Bob Daly. On that ebook that you have, whereabouts is that again?
Well, I'm going to be sending you all my walkthrough on how to do email templates, and I'm going to put the link to that ebook in my email to you.
Thank you very much.
I'm going to make it easier for you guys to get it.
Okay.
Are there any other? Yes.
I have a quick question.
Yes, sir.
When we send emails or any type of program like this sends email blasts out, a certain percentage of them are getting knocked out, I noticed, by like .rr, like, you know, when they're, like it's something .rr.com, like it's a rural area or something like that. And then what I have to do is I have to cut and paste the email address, delete it, hit save, then re-put it back in there, and then it works again. What is that about? Is that like a server issue? Or?
Yes, that is their server is telling, their server is saying, do not send this email to me. And RR stands for Roadrunner, which is a internet provider. And what it's doing is the server is telling our server, I don't want these emails anymore. There's nobody here by that name, or their box is full, or for some reason it's not going through. So our server is tagging them as do not send. When you reset that email address by putting something else in, you know, copy it up, put something else in, save it, put the email address back in, you are resetting the flag on our server to try it again. If it's a bad email address, it'll bounce again. If it's not a bad email address, because let's say, well, we found this a lot over Christmas, but email boxes were full, so things were bouncing right and left. They came back after the first of the year, cleared their boxes out, and emails started going again.
Yeah, right. That makes a lot of sense. Thanks.
So that's it. You do have to do that. It is something to reset the flags on there, and there is no way to do it other than one at a time from your point of view, because you do need to verify the email addresses are correct.
Oh, yeah. Listen, I got to be honest with you. Your people at your support actually wrote me a special little report that I click on after I do my big blast, and those ones that say, I go in and I try to find out why it didn't go through. Like you said, sometimes it's the person just doesn't work there, or it's just, you know, whatever. If they're a valid person, I redo their email, otherwise I kill them. You know, that's.
Yep.
Yeah, you know, I just wondered why it did that, and in the chat messages I never got that. Now I get it.
Okay. Well, we have 2 minutes left. Is there anything else I can help you with?
The name of the puppy.
The name of the puppy, that is called the Mad Puppy. That is not one of my puppies. That is a picture my husband found me on the internet. That is not my new company logo. I have a question for you all. I would like to ask for help from you. One, is the class worthwhile? Because I'm going to start doing this every Wednesday.
Yes.
That we're going to devote the hour to this. And
yes.
two, will you all take up the challenge of sending me some of the interesting email templates that you found so that I can see about updating our site and your site with some new template folders?
Sure.
Because let's face it, guys, you know me, I have a limited memory and even more limited in my creativity. So they'll all look alike if you don't help me out here.
Okay.
Or there'll be puppies in all of them.
So you're doing this next week, some new information or kind of similar information?
Well, we're going to cover some of the similar. We're going to come up with, as people have questions and have more ideas of what they need to know how to do. So it's parts of it are going to be similar and parts of it are going to be different every week depending on who attends and what kind of questions we get.
Okay. Cool.
All right.
Kendra, you said that there's something else you were going to send to us. I know. You recorded this call. You were going to send us an email because
Yeah.
2 of my staff members wanted to join and I preempted them.
Yes, we're going. Craig has been recording the call, and he's going to post it up onto our website. And so once that's up there, we'll be sure and let you know where it's at.
Okay, very good.
All right.
And then I know you're over time, and I can reserve. I did think of one other question. Should I ask it
Go
now?
ahead. No, you can ask.
When you showed the template early on for the newsletter, what and I didn't really get a full sense of what that template was, but what we envision, we haven't created this template yet, but what we envision is a topic heading and a link to a more detailed a topic heading and a summary of what's